Let them know you dropping me.
I drop you.
No, I'm saying.
Pooh Shiesty dropping 1017.
New video and details are emerging in a major federal case where prosecutors claim rapper Pooh Shiesty held his former colleague Gucci Mane at gunpoint, all in an attempt to break free from his recording contract. So now, as Pooh Shiesty is fighting to get out of jail before trial, still months away, the government is revealing more alleged misconduct, claiming he can't be trusted on the street. We've combed through new filings to bring you the very latest on this case, and we're bringing on the attorney who had been representing Pooh Shiesty in this case, Bradford Cohen. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. By the way, if you're following us here on Law&Crime, you might see that we put all these clips out there so quickly on these rapidly developing stories. And if you're into content creation, if you're putting things out on social media, you might be wondering, how are we able to do this? Well, we use something called Opus Clip. This is an all-in-one AI editor that makes it so easy to cut, create, and upload videos across any platform. Through AI, Opus Clip generates B-roll, it reframes footage, and it even cleans up audio. It is so easy. You just visit opus.pro/sidebar. You sign up, you upload, and in minutes, you'll have perfectly edited clips ready to go. For TikTok, Shorts, Reels, Opus Clip is really your one-stop shop, and having a tool like Opus Clip means that our producers can get you viral courtroom updates instantly. This is the most powerful tool there is to share ideas and edit like a pro. So go to opus.pro/sidebar to get a free week and then 50% off. Have you seen this clip that's been floating around online? You probably have. Now, it's not clear exactly where it came from or how content creators got their hands on it, but we'll talk about that too. But it purportedly shows the moment when Pooh Shiesty, real name Lontrell Williams Jr., and his co-defendants allegedly held rapper and record executive Gucci Mane at gunpoint. Allegedly, it was all because Pooh Shiesty wanted out of his recording contract. Now, we're going to bring on Bradford Cohen, the attorney to the stars, had represented Pooh Shiesty at one point in time in this case until recently. But we'll get his perspective on all this. But just take a look at the video for yourself.
Oh, you dropping this done deal. It's a done deal. It's a done deal.
Let them know you dropping me.
I drop you.
No, I'm saying.
Pooh Shiesty dropping 1017.
Shout out to real nigga. Ain't never did no police or none of that, bro. Tell them what's going on.
Bro, we just did that. That's done.
What you do?
You drop. You said you want to be dropped. You drop.
You signed the paper.
I signed the paper. It's done.
So we corroborated this clip's apparent authenticity with the screenshots from a federal filing that appear to show the same people in the same studio. Because in the screenshots, the guy who appears to be Gucci Mane, his face is redacted with the label RD, so presumably standing for his real name, Radrick Davis. Pooh Shiesty is also reportedly, allegedly visible wearing his signature balaclava. You can also see who appears to be one of his co-defendants, identified by the feds as DeMarcus Glover, standing near Gucci Mane, allegedly holding a large gun. And the feds claim that Rodney Wright Jr., also known as Big 30, is the one who's actually doing the recording. We also know that federal prosecutors submitted a USB with digital evidence to the court on June 25th. This was a major escalation in this case. It's the latest evidence to emerge against Pooh Shiesty because he stands accused of orchestrating this alleged brazen kidnapping and robbery plot. And the reason this USB and the video and the evidence has come out recently is in response to a request from Pooh Shiesty's legal team to re-examine the conditions of his pretrial detention. Because Pooh Shiesty has been locked up since he and his co-defendants, including his father, Lontrell Williams Sr., were indicted on charges of conspiracy to commit kidnapping, conspiracy to commit extortion, those kind of crimes. Now, according to the indictment, Pooh Shiesty allegedly arranged a meeting with Gucci Mane at this office building in Dallas, Texas. This is where the music label 1017 apparently has a recording studio. Pooh Shiesty had been apparently signed to the label since 2021, but reportedly wanted out of his contract. Now, how he's accused of trying to get out of that is interesting because prosecutors claim that he didn't, go through a lawyer. They claim he used the threat of violence to get what he wanted. And then they accuse him and his alleged co-conspirators of robbing Gucci Mane and his entourage on the way out. The defendant's arrival, by the way, at the building was reportedly captured on the building's security cameras, and screenshots of the footage were included in the criminal complaint. And this is new, by the way, a text thread included in the government's response to Pooh Shiesty's bail request that allegedly shows the plan in the making It says, quote, Williams Jr., using the name Michael Myers, discussing needing 6 certi, or certified, which is believed to refer to certified gang members, for that Saturday, January 10th, 2026. Someone else in the thread says, I got the cat and TRX. Prosecutors believe the cat refers to a 2020 Dodge Charger Hellcat belonging or allegedly belonging to defendant Rodney Wright's father, which was reportedly seen on camera leaving the office building, right? The alleged crime scene. This is according to the criminal complaint. And investigators claim that the crew took luxury items from Gucci Mane and other people, other alleged victims, including a necklace, a chain, watches, a Louis Vuitton bag. And according to prosecutors, what's believed to be the same items later appeared on the defendant's social media pages. And despite what you may call, what you can arguably call, again, they're innocent unless proven guilty, but arguably call the apparent avalanche of evidence against him, Pooh Shiesty's legal team is fighting to get him out of jail. So a judge had denied Pooh Shiesty's bail earlier this year, but his lawyers want that reviewed. By the way, his trial's been pushed back to February 2027. There's a lot that can change between now and then, but his team says he should be released with strict conditions up until his trial. Before we even talk about the arguments in that filing, I just want to go a little bit back, and I want to talk a little bit about Pooh Shiesty's past experiences with the justice system, because it's important. In April of 2022, a federal judge out in Miami had sentenced Pooh Shiesty to 63 months, so a little more than 5 years in prison. And as part of a plea deal, he pled guilty to 1 felony count of conspiracy to possess firearms in furtherance of violent and drug trafficking crimes. According to charging documents in that case, Pooh Shiesty was believed to have been part of a group that shot 2 people and stole drugs and high-end sneakers at a hotel in Miami-Dade County back in 2020. Pooh Shiesty, he was released from the Bureau of Prisons, the BOP, in October of last year. And the rapper apparently signed paperwork last fall outlining all the rules that he would have to follow while on home detention. According to that paperwork, Pooh Shiesty agreed, quote, I will not drink alcohol beverages of any kind. I will submit to urinalysis or alcohol testing as requested by the RRC probation. In its motion for review of pretrial detention, Pooh Shiesty's legal team stated, quote, he reported for every required urinalysis. He never tested positive. He complied with all conditions of home detention without exception. Here's the thing. 2 sides, according to Texas prosecutors, the rapper had not been following the rules. The feds filed several exhibits with the court, including incident reports regarding Pooh Shiesty's alleged refusal to undergo urinalysis tests at the VOA, or Volunteers of America, which contracts with the BOP. So, for example, one report says, quote, client was informed on March 21st, 2026 in the morning that he needed to report to the VOA facility to provide a UA. Later that evening, the client was contacted by phone as a reminder to report again for the UA. The client stated that he did not have transportation as his producer was out of town. The client then asked if he could report first thing the following morning. I informed the client that I would need to obtain approval and would call him back. After speaking with Ms. Blair regarding the situation, she approved the client reporting the next morning. I then contacted the client and informed him that he was required to report on March 22nd, 2026 at 10 a.m. The client stated that he understood. On March 22nd, 2026, at approximately 20:01, the client had not shown up. Another report states, on November 9th, 2025, at approximately 1:39 p.m., client Lantrell Williams was asked to produce a urine sample. The sample that was provided was cold and did not read between 90 to 100 degrees. Supervisor was notified, who then advised to write up as a refusal. The government also apparently produced these text messages that were allegedly sent by Pooh Shiesty that they say prove he was drinking despite the rules against it. So one, for example, allegedly from October 13th says, quote, high and drunk. October 18th, quote, I'm drunk. January 25th, quote, getting drunk. And in a conversation seemingly from January 31st, Pooh Shiesty seemingly texted, what's up? I just got up. I've been tore up. The person responds, you was drunk, LMAO. And Pooh Shiesty reportedly replied, yeah, man, passed out in the studio. You know what else? The rapper even reportedly got into a car accident while drunk in February. That's a new allegation. There was a text message, a text thread that was included in the government's motion and includes this exchange, quote, I got in a wreck. What the F? How? You was drunk? Yep, but somebody hit me. So look, it seems he arguably, allegedly, wasn't super cooperative with the terms of his release, right? That's the allegation. And get this, the feds claim that Pooh Shiesty was essentially in cahoots with a case supervisor who helped get him day passes. Here's what their response says. Quote, investigators have now learned that Williams Jr. was involved in an inappropriate relationship with at least one of his VOA case supervisors, and that his VOA employee was actively involved in entering fake day passes that would allow Williams Jr. to travel to unapproved locations while he was supposed to be confined to his residence. This misconduct extended to the day of the kidnapping itself on January 10, 2026. On that day, the employee entered 3 day passes, allowing Williams Jr. to travel, and contacted him 19 times over the course of the day. VOA later terminated the employee for this conduct. Makes me think, is that going to be a key witness at an upcoming trial? But what else did the defense present as a reason for why Pooh Shiesty should be let out of jail? Well, according to them, the star witness in this case, Gucci Mane, recanted. Yeah, from their motion, it says, quote, strip away what the government does not have, and what remains is this. R.D., Radrick Davis, or seemingly Radrick Davis, told Dallas police on the night of January 10th that Mr. Williams pulled a gun on him, forced him to sign a contract release, and robbed him of his jewelry. That statement, relayed through an FBI agent who was not present at the incident and who did not interview R.D. herself, is the sum total of the government's case as presented on the core offense. Special Agent Hansen conceded on cross that the FBI has not taken a formal statement from any of the 5 alleged victims in the 4 months since the incident. More damaging still, R.D., the man at the center of this case, has gone on social media and denied that any of this occurred. He has posted videos repudiating the government's account, and according to defense counsel's unchallenged representation to the magistrate judge, has displayed the allegedly stolen jewelry as if it were still in his possession. Agent Hansen did not know about these posts and confirmed that no one from the FBI had spoken to R.D. after they appeared. A complaining witness publicly recanting the offense is not a minor evidentiary wrinkle. It is a fundamental problem. Look, if that's true, it could really be damaging to the Fed's case. But remember, Gucci Mane wasn't the only alleged victim of this purported shakedown. In fact, the man identified in court documents as CW, so reportedly one of Gucci Mane's security guards, submitted an impact statement to the court urging that Pooh Shiesty remain locked up. In it, he wrote, quote, prior to this incident, Mr. Williams was given a second chance and was granted bail bond with monitoring conditions. Despite those conditions, he was once again accused of committing another crime that resulted in a person being shot. My wife and I are both afraid of what his mindset might be if he's released. Since the incident, I have found myself watching vehicles passing by my home, worried that he or someone connected to him may attempt to harm me or my family. I have young children, and because of this fear, I have limited their ability to go outside and enjoy normal activities as they should. Judge, I respectfully ask that you consider the safety and security of my family and me when making your decision regarding bond. I believe keeping Mr. Williams detained is necessary to protect us and prevent even further harm. Thank you for taking the time to hear my concerns. Respectfully, CW, Texas victim and survivor. So look, the defense is hoping for home confinement. They want conditions that are similar to those that he was under after his release from prison. So 24-hour home confinement, GPS monitoring, continuous third-party monitoring managed by a retired FBI special agent and a retired DEA special agent. Pooh Shiesty could reportedly secure the bail with up to 8 properties. His team suggests that he surrender all travel documents and passports, that there be a no-contact order regarding both the alleged victims and the co-defendants, so a way to kind of alleviate any concerns there might be if he's released. But the government responded. The government followed up with a 25-page response, including several exhibits that challenged some of the defense's arguments. For example, they say that the, quote, release of contract, which the defense argued was never found, was discovered, that it would seem that the purported video of the incident would support that. The prosecution also pointed out that even if Pooh Shiesty wears an ankle monitor, it apparently doesn't deter him from allegedly committing crimes. He was wearing one when this whole alleged kidnapping and robbery happened. So look, the judge has not ruled on whether bail will be granted, but you know we're going to stay on top of this and see what happens. Okay, so we got a special guest. I want to welcome back on Bradford Cohen. So not only criminal defense attorney to the stars, had represented Pooh Shiesty at one point in this criminal case. Thank you so much for taking the time. Always good to see you. This is a significant development. I mean, the last time you and I talked about this, there was a question, well, what does really the government have? What's their evidence?
Sure.
I mean, they seem to have this video and they seem to have a copy of the contract. Feels like it's going to be tough for the defense.
Sure. So there's a couple ways to look at this. Number one is when this case was originally filed, why I thought this case was so done in a sloppy manner is because they didn't have any of this, right? They were looking for this stuff. They didn't do any search warrants that they could get the stuff early on. They didn't do any physical search warrants in terms of locations. They just didn't do the work originally on this case. What they did is they just indicted. So my original argument was they don't have any of this stuff, which they didn't. Since that time period, obviously, they've done their work and they started to discover these things. Now, I would be foolish to say, wow, this is a great video for the defense, because it's not. But at the same token, my argument at the bond hearing, which I conducted, was even if they had all this evidence, it still does not rise to the level of a federal kidnapping charge. The charges that they charged him with do not meet the evidence that they have, the actual elements. So it's really a legal argument. I understand, like, the populace, and I posted on my Instagram today, and the opinion is like, oh, he's cooked, and this, oh my God, he's in all these different things. They don't understand the legal argument behind it. Now, this may be a state case. It may be some state arguments. There may be other federal charges that should have been filed, but not a federal kidnapping charge.
Explain to me why it doesn't fit that.
So in order to fit a federal kidnapping charge, there needs to be a benefit, and that benefit needs to be proven. And their benefit, their theory of this benefit, that's one element, by the way. The second element is that there's some sort of interstate commerce clause that comes into effect. They can't prove these weapons were made out of the state of Texas, which generally that's how they bring cases in federal court, kidnapping cases. It has to affect interstate commerce. So then they say, oh, well, maybe their cell phones were they were communicating on their cell phones. That doesn't make any sense because they didn't show anything.
What about travel?
So the travel would have to be proven that they traveled specifically to kidnap or specifically to commit this crime. They have not proven that. So that was my original argument. I had case law that backed that up. And I really think that it was a very, very articulate argument that the court just was not, she just didn't want to take it under advice. She just saw, like, okay, this FBI agent came in. She says there's a kidnapping. I'm going to say there's a kidnapping. The actual judge in the case who looked at the evidence at the time said, I don't see where this is a federal kidnapping case. For Big 30 and Pooh's dad on their bond hearing, they appealed to the judge, and the judge said, I don't see a federal kidnapping case here. I'm going to give them a bond. So that is still the argument. Now, are there other federal charges or different federal charges that they may look at? Sure. But this was done so hastily and sloppy. They should have had the right indictment with the right charges from day one. And I think it would have been a cleaner case for the defense and a cleaner case for the government. Is it extortion? Is it conspiracy to commit extortion? I think that there's an argument for that. I think there's some arguments for those issues. Again, you're still going to run into whether or not it's a federal extortion as opposed to a state extortion case. I think there's just some issues there, legal issues that need to be raised in case there's an appeal or in case there's things of that nature. Now, the X factor here is that there's many defendants, and whenever you have many defendants, you know as well as I do, the best crime is committed by one person. The worst crime is committed by 8, because out of the 8, 7 are probably going to flip on the 1. So I think that's what their bigger concern is that, these individuals are going to flip on Pooh or his dad or Big 30, because those are the people that they really want. And the other people are kind of peripheral. So, and they might not have enough money for good attorneys. There's so many things that take place in these type of cases where there's multiple co-defendants that it starts to kind of fall apart at that point. So let's assume for a moment, let's say in this theory that it does match up to the federal charges. Let's just put that for a second. If I look at this video and I'm wondering, how does a defense attorney explain it away? Is it one argument he wasn't being serious? He wasn't serious? Like, it's a weird clip. It is a little bit of a weird clip. Like, you see a guy allegedly with a gun, allegedly one of the co-defendants. He's there, he's like saying to the camera, I'm released from the contract. He's like, it's a weird video. And one of the arguments that's being made, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that Gucci Mane doesn't, like he didn't take this seriously, like went on social media and kind of, defense says that he recanted what happened. Is there any way you could look at that video and be like, this wasn't
serious? Like it was I don't know, not staged, but it was a gimmick, or it was I don't know if that's anything, but am I wrong about that?
Not wrong. I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at the video depending on the evidence that comes out. When I look at this video, if they're going to say this video is an actual video that's not staged or not a joke or things like that, that you could make those arguments, or there's evidence that shows that it's not. Here's the issues that come up, right? Number one is the statement is that Pooh had an AK-47. Pooh was the one who was forcing him to sign a document with an AK-47. In the video, Pooh does not have a weapon in his hand. He allegedly is filming it. In the statement, they were saying Big 30 was filming it and that Pooh was the one with the weapon. Then they also say that they take all the jewelry, that the jewelry is taken before or after he goes into the studio. You see Gucci with his, allegedly Gucci with his diamond earrings still in his ear. That was one of the things that he said he made them take out the diamond earrings in his ear. So if that was the case, why wouldn't they have robbed him right there they're taking this video, shut the video off, robbed him right there in the studio instead of waiting until they got out of the studio and then robbing him? There's still a lot of issues there with the video, even if we were to assume that this video is not weird, but it is super weird. And the way
at the other days, there's a guy that looks like he has a gun with him as he's telling him I'm released from the contract. I mean, another argument is it looks straightforward based on the accounts, based on what the prosecution has alleged. It seems to match up to the narrative what's in that video.
Well, he's also saying something like, I already said you're out of your contract. I already said that you were out of your contract. It's just the body language is weird. The conversation is weird. And I have had a lot of conversation with Gucci before this all occurred. I was very friendly with Gucci during Pooh's first case because I represented Pooh on his first case. And I really love Gucci. Like, I think he's a good dude. And to see this video, it just doesn't seem like this would be Gucci's, whether or not there's a gun in the scene or not. I know Gucci, like the old Gucci, and I don't think that the way that this was broached with him in his hands in his pocket saying like, hey, you're out of your contract, very calmly, all the things that are going on, it seems really unusual for Gucci to be in this position. And I understand everyone's like, well, there's AK-47. There's a lot of guys there. Like, I mean, between me and you, Gucci used to be John Wick, like, not the violent John Wick, but the mindset of like, I don't care if there's a million guns. Like, that's just Gucci. So I don't ever pitch Gucci. I don't ever picture him with his hands in his pocket saying, yeah, I'm good. No. And I don't care who's in the room. But
that's going to be the YouTube title for this video. John Wick is Gucci Mane's the new John Wick. Look, this is all being brought because of pretrial detention, right? This is all being brought about whether or not Pooh Shiesty, there should be a change in his pretrial detention. Should he be released? At the very least, the rules of evidence, the standard is different when you're having an analysis in terms of pretrial detention versus whether or not somebody is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you think that this is sufficient for the prosecution to establish he shouldn't be released or there shouldn't be any changes?
I think it weighs very heavily on the side of the government. I think the defense has some work to do. I would start subpoenaing people to this bond hearing, let them object to who you're going to subpoena. I'd like to see if individuals who gave statements previously are still sticking to those statements. I think that's really relevant. And even during my bond hearing, when I had the bond hearing with Pooh, the FBI agent is like, I haven't even had any contact with any of the victims since the incident. I didn't even have contact with them at the incident. I read a police report. I did my due diligence, and she didn't even write the report. They put on an FBI agent that did not author a report, that did not gather any information, that did not gather any evidence. It was really a sloppy bond hearing. They were lucky because the magistrate was on their side. But if that was in front of a judge that was paying attention, and I don't, no disrespect to the magistrate, but I think if there was a judge who was really paying attention to the law and what they presented at that bond hearing, I think it might have been a different story. I know everyone says, oh, it's an uphill battle. I mean, listen, everything for me is an uphill battle, but that's why I'm Brad Cohen.
Ooh, I love it. The modesty. Before I let you go, a big component about this is the contract, right? The contract that was printed out in the
Sure.
store. And then now it seems the prosecution says, hey, we got it. We can show it to you. Is that significant?
I think it definitely helps
Like
their
the
narrative.
release. I mean, the release of it, right? The release of
I think it helps their narrative. And here's another thing that's really not normal is that this evidence is being released. Obviously, it's not the defense releasing it. This evidence is being leaked into the press, obviously by the government, which is also a nasty move that they do on basically any case. They never let the defense leak the good stuff, but the government always leaks anything that's bad. And then the judges just let it go. Like it's never really addressed in court how this video got out, who set the video out, why it went out, how did they get a hold of it. There's never ever any, very infrequently are there investigations of the government. But putting that aside, the having the physical contract is definitely, if it's a signed physical contract, if it's just a physical contract without his signature on it, I don't know how much further that gets them. It definitely gets them, a little bit further. But if it's not the signed contract, where's the signed contract? Why was it never used? Why did the record executives never get notice that he is now dropped off a 1017? Why did he never shop himself around to other labels after allegedly he was dropped from Gucci's label? So all those things come into question. If this was a real deal thing and this really happened the way they said it did, then why didn't he go out the next day and start negotiating contracts with Columbia Records or Sony or whatever and say like, hey, I'm no longer on 1017. I want to make my own deal. That never happened. And you don't see any emails saying that, hey, we're going to renegotiate or anything like that. So that's really, I think, a hole in their case. Is it an impossible case to win? I never find any case impossible to win. There's always a way to win. It's whether or not arguments are presented correctly, motions are filed that need to be filed, evidence that can be excluded can be excluded. So all those things really come down to your legal prowess. It's not just the story that the government is telling. It's also whether or not the elements are met and how their elements are met.
Well, let's see what happens. We got some time between now and February 2027, if that trial should actually happen at that point. Bradford Cohen, thank you so much for coming on and giving your perspective on this. Appreciate it, as always.
The best. The best. Jesse Weber is always the best.
I love it. Thanks, man. That's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. You can also check us out on NBC's Peacock as well. If you want to follow me, X, Instagram, my News Nation show, Jesse Weber Live, Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. Eastern. See you next time, everybody.